Hey, hi there, people. I know it's been a while since I've jumped on here. I hope everyone's safe and well. It's been a bit of a shit year, let's be honest. A lot to contend with. Things are trying to get back to normal despite other people's best efforts to stop it. So there's a couple of things I want to jump on here and just get off my chest. Some people might agree with what I'm saying, other people might absolutely uh, completely disagree with what I'm saying, and my intention isn't to offend those people. It's just how I feel. Um, so let's just get straight into it. I think you probably know where I'm going to go with the first thing. Okay, next week is meant to be proposed for kids to go back to school, but you've got too many people saying that they're scared to send their children back. Their children aren't going to be safe. Um, the kids should need to stay at home because it isn't safe to send them back. Right. So let's get to the bottom of this. Let's kind of see it where I'm looking from. Um, so children are going to be unsafe in environments that are going to be COVID compliant. There's going to be anti-bac everywhere. The tables are positioned so the kids aren't sitting on top of each other. Steps are going to be made in communal areas to keep them apart. So that everything's going to be done in schools to keep kids safe. However, that is far more dangerous to let a child go there, in some people's mind, than letting them run around outside playing without masks on, taking them to shops and they're running around in shops without masks on and bumping into people, running over parks, bumping into people they don't even know, going to amusement parks, going to the beach. None of that is unsafe, apparently. That's perfectly safe, but to send your kids to a building that's going to be COVID compliant and every effort's going to be made to keep your child safe is far too dangerous. So let's be honest. Let's kind of call it as it is. A lot of these people don't want to get back to normal because they've got far too used to doing nothing and getting paid for it. So they're sitting there on their furlough, waiting to go back. They've got so used to kind of sitting at home doing nothing. They haven't got to get up and see to the kids. They haven't got to take the kids to school. They haven't got to pick the kids up from school. They can just get them up in the morning, open the front door, out you go, come back when you're hungry, come back when it's bedtime. And they've just got so used to that. Oh, we want to go for a day down the beach. We haven't got to worry about the kids being in school because they're not in school. So we'll all go down to the beach. We'll all go here. We'll all go there. And I think people have just got comfortable thinking it's a permanent holiday at the moment. And it fucking isn't. You're on furlough. You're not on holiday. You're in the position you're in because your company can't afford to bring you into work properly, but they're doing the decent thing and making sure you don't go without money. So do the decent thing, and when the time is right to get back to normal and start putting back into the economy what's been taken out with furlough, you shouldn't be kind of questioning, do I need to go back? Yes, you do need to go back. A lot of people are going to get a major shock in October when the government's 80% furlough stops and people will still think they can stay on furlough, but they're going to be on literally pennies because the government have said October's the cut-off. And I think a high majority of people, that's what's driving them to not want the kids to go back to school. Because if the kids can't go back to school, they have got it in their heads, well, I can't go back to work, so I can still be paid to be off for doing nothing. Well, yes, we've got to be cautious still. This thing is still here. A lot of people have died. People are dying, but nowhere near the rate it was kind of mid-April when it was like thousands. We're in single figures now. And we've got to start taking steps to get back to normal and not just the good things. Everyone's quite happy that they could take their kids to a pub beer garden and they think they'll be safe there, but they won't. But they're the same people that won't send their kids back to school. They're the same people that will sit on a beach with thousands of people they don't know, with no masks, not social distancing, but they won't send their kids to school because the kids won't be safe. An interesting statistic that I looked up before jumping on here was since the pandemic started, and we've had kind of close to like 45,000 people passing away, which is absolutely horrific. the figures for school-age children being admitted to hospital with COVID-19 and having to have kind of like, you know, emergency treatment and being put in intensive care, out of 45, out of the thousands and thousands and thousands of people that have been in hospital, 71, and I'm not kidding you, if you want to look it up, it's there in black and white for you to find, 71 preschool children since the pandemic started till now have been admitted to hospital with complications and had to go in intensive care for COVID. Of those 71, 5 sadly passed away due to having complications with COVID-19. So put that in perspective, 45,000 people nearly have passed away really, really sadly throughout this pandemic, of which 5 of them, 5 were school-age children. So where you can kind of, that's why I'm a bit of a loss of people saying it's far too risky. If the risk was high, then surely the rate of kids being infected and being poorly and going into hospital was high. But I don't even, I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but I can't even figure out what that percentage is of the death rate in the UK. 5 out of that entire 45,000. I don't even know what the percentage is. It's probably not even a quarter of a percent. So it's not as risky as people think. What has been said is when children catch it, they generally don't get that poorly with it. The risk is that they could pass it on to someone else. Now that is where my second argument comes in. Why aren't kids wearing face masks? I can understand toddlers and babies, no, because they're going to keep ripping them off and they're going to keep tearing them off. But kind of, say 7 years old upwards, they know what's going on. You can kind of explain to them what's going on. They should be wearing face masks in shops like we are. If you're worried about kids spreading it, then why aren't kids wearing face masks? I see in Scotland, the high schools have gone back and high school age children are having to wear face masks in school. Now how comes they can get it right and the Scottish government get their things right? When it come to lockdown they got it right, when it come down to opening things up they got it right, and now they got it right with the schools. Why can't we get it right? That's my argument would be now to parents is, look, your kids have got to go back to school. It's not a kind of until this virus has gone completely, because there is an outside chance that this virus won't go away completely. It will hang around and we'll have kind of like we have the flu epidemics, we'll have kind of COVID, but by then hopefully we'll have a vaccine and people can take a vaccine to protect themselves from it. Now, you're not seriously suggesting to me that it's a perfectly sensible argument to say until it's completely eradicated and there's no COVID on this planet whatsoever, kids shouldn't go back to school. That's fucking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Kids need to be educated. I think they've been off since March, kind of, was it middle of March? They closed the schools down. They've been off a long time. But all of that time, they've been running around without masks. I think there's very few parents that could actually put up an argument and say, I've kept my children in, I've kept them out of the way of everything, I've not let them go anywhere, we've not taken them anywhere, and I feel it's a risk for them to go back to school. I don't think there's any parent that could honestly come forward and say that. A lot of parents kind of got caught up with a fashionable idea of home educating, and that fucking died out by the end of April. By the end of April, parents just couldn't be bothered to home educate, most of them. So it was just open the front doors and let your kids run around wild and let them come back when they're hungry. So this whole thing's really beginning to piss me off now, to be honest. I haven't got kids of a school age, but I'll tell you this now, if my kids were of school age now, I'd be sending them back to school without any shadow of a doubt. Whether I said to them you were going to wear face masks when you were in school, or I'd say to the school I want my kids to wear face masks, whatever, they'd be going back, because they need to get back, not just from the education side of things, but to get normality back, because you can't permanently keep things the way they are now, where people seem to think it's a permanent holiday. No one has to work, no one goes to school, you just go out to the shops, you can go to the beach when you like, you can go out when you like. It was never like that before this started, and we've got to get back to that being like that before. Yes, it's been nice for some people, not for others though. And we need to try and think of the bigger picture, that the more things can kind of get back to normal, the more of the anxious people in society might start feeling less anxious because they see things getting back to normal. I will be honest and say that throughout some of this pandemic, it did play on my anxiety, and I did get anxious at times, and sometimes I just didn't want to talk to people, and you know, and sometimes you just kind of say and do things that you wouldn't normally do out of character because of being anxious about things. So I'm not going to lie, but I've now got to a point now where I don't think we should just think that nothing's wrong and carry on completely back to normal, but of the things we can get back to normal doing with a minimum amount of risk. And everything's got a risk involved to it. You can't find something that hasn't got a risk. Getting up in the morning and going downstairs to have a cup of tea involves a risk. You could fall down the stairs and break your fucking neck. So it don't mean, well, I'm never going to go downstairs again because I could fall downstairs and break my neck. It's the same thing with this. Not but just sending your child back to school doesn't mean that they're going to catch COVID virus and spread it to everyone. Because if everyone's sensible and do what they should be doing and what they should have been doing, the risk of spreading is greatly reduced. Which brings me on to the next thing that's pissing me off at the moment, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is people belly aching and moaning without a very good reason about wearing masks. Now, before people jump on me and say, I've got a medical condition, I don't have to wear one, I'm not talking about people like that. I'm talking about people that should wear a mask, could wear one, and choose not to wear one because it's awkward. Oh, it's uncomfortable. Well, so is lying flat on your face, hooked up to a respirator in a hospital bed. That's uncomfortable as well. And that's why we're trying to make people wear masks, to stop people having to fucking go through that. I get so pissed off with people that won't wear masks, and it isn't because they're exempt, it's because they're fucking selfish and ignorant and they won't wear one. I'm in a position now where I'm not doing a full commute into the city. Maybe a couple of days a week I have to go in, and I have to kind of I leave ridiculously early in the morning to make sure the train's empty so that I can leave work early and miss the rush hour. And it's draining. I have to sit on a train for nearly 2 hours with a face mask on. Not very comfortable, but the things that could happen if I don't wear one, of me going into hospital, being on a ventilator, being made to lay flat on my face, gasping for air, and the risk of death, drives me to put a mask on and wear it for 2 hours. And it seems to be, and I know people are going to jump on me and say that it isn't a fair comment to make, but I'm just calling how I see it from where I am. I get on where I am now at the coast. Now I will be honest and say that people in the Sussex area where I come from are very compliant. Most people wear masks in the supermarket. Those that don't, you can see they're either old people or they're of an age where they don't have to wear one. But everyone's compliant, everyone's still sticking to the 2 metres if they can. Everyone's kind of realised that we've had one of the lowest infection rates and death rates in the country, or actually in the UK, and people are happy to carry on doing what they're doing to keep that the way that it is. However, it seems to be the nearer you get to London, the less people want to be compliant. And it seems, I get out at East Croydon station and that's when it starts. There's people walking around without masks on. They're being asked at East Croydon station, where's your mask? And they're telling people to fuck off. Not because they've got a medical condition, they just don't want to wear one. I've had to kind of get the tram a couple of times when I've been in Croydon. And on the whole, most people wear a mask on the tram. They're meant to wear it on all public transport. But you still get the people that refuse. And Tramlink, to their credit, rather than getting people checking tickets to see if people are paid are getting people to get on trams and asking people why they haven't got a mask on. But they're just met with abuse. They're just told, fuck off, I'm not wearing one. Not because they're ill, not because they've got a particular reason. They just don't want to. Well, you selfish pricks. You've got to. It's not a case of it's an option, but unfortunately we can't enforce it as strong as I would like us to. I would say of the two things that I've kind of gone on here and moaned about, of going back to school and the face mask thing, the government needs to step up and be a lot more harsh of the penalties of not doing these things. What I would do, school-wise, if parents refuse to send their kids to school, and there isn't an actual reason why, it's just kind of we're too used to them not going now, and we're going to use an excuse that we're scared, even though we take our kids here, there and everywhere elsewhere and don't batter an eyelid about our kids' safety, then my argument and what I would bring in if I was in power as part of the government, I would say, yep, fine. You don't send your kids to school. Keep your kids off school. However, you are banned from leaving the country to go on holiday. Because if you're that scared of sending your kids into a completely safe environment like a school that's COVID compliant, you must be absolutely terrified at the thought of taking your kids out of the country to a country that's maybe got hardly any COVID compliance at all. So that's what I would do. I would say to people, anyone that don't send your kids to school, you are banned from leaving the country and going abroad on holiday. As simple as that. Revoke their passports. And if that's not harsh, you're just basically saying if you're that scared and you'll do anything to protect your children, going abroad is a greater risk to your kids than sending them to school. So that's what I would do with that. In regard to the face mask thing, I think we've lit there's no point in having a fine in words but you don't carry it out in practice. I actually saw someone the other day to do with a face mask saying that we should be given an incentive to wear a mask, maybe paid an amount of money each for being compliant with wearing masks. Are you fucking kidding me? I think the biggest incentive to wear face masks is it keeps you alive. And that's a bigger incentive than any kind of money you could give me. If it keeps me safe and the people around me safe, then that's the biggest plus of wearing a face mask. And I don't need an incentive bigger than that. I also saw yesterday that people, again, rent a protest turning up again. Let's just protest about everything. Protests all around the country, anti-mask wearing. What a bunch of selfish pricks they are. It comes to something when famous people jump on Twitter to get behind certain protests and stuff like that, but some also condemn. It comes to something when there was protests held in Ireland as part of these countrywide and UK-wide protests about anti-face mask wearing. It comes to something when the people in Ireland had a protest, and one of the people that came out, or I should say two of the people that came out and condemned them, were Jedward. And they actually did call people selfish pricks on Twitter. Look it up. I must admit, I did chuckle when I saw that. But that puts it in perspective. When you got two complete and utter numbskulls like those two idiots can see the seriousness and the reason why we wear face masks. If they can get it, and we know what they're like, and they can get that angered by it that they go to Twitter and completely break the image you have of them and calling people selfish pricks on Twitter, then you know that you're doing something that isn't really for the good of anyone's health. So these protests, people saying that they feel like they're being controlled by the government by being told to wear a face mask. And then you also got the conspiracy theorists that are saying that face masks have got hidden microchips in them, so they're tracking people and tracking what they're doing. Oh, fuck off, seriously. Conspiracy theorists can fuck off at the moment. It's the last thing we need. We've already got Sky News for wanting to stir stuff up and bring doom and gloom and want the world to be miserable and want the world to basically lock themselves away and never go anywhere and live in fear. We've already got Sky News that's very, very good at doing that, and the BBC aren't far behind them. What we don't need are lunatics protesting about each and everything, and saying that everything's got a hidden agenda. There is a hidden agenda behind being told to wear a face mask. The hidden agenda is, without thinking, when you forget you've got them on, you're actually protecting yourself and the people around you. So that's the hidden agenda behind that. I don't feel like I'm being controlled by the government for wearing a face mask. I just think it makes sense. I do think that age should be dropped for how old is the youngest you should wear a face mask. I think it should drop from 11 to say maybe 7 or 8 years old, because far too often you go shopping, you're completely compliant, you're using the anti-bac on the way in, you're following the arrows on the way around the shop, you've got your mask on, and some idiots took their kids in the shopping and they're running around playing soldiers in the supermarket, banging and crashing into you, no masks on, just basically treating the place like it's a fucking playground. And I'm thinking, what is the point of all us making some of the sacrifices we've done and doing the things that we're doing to keep everyone safe, and these morons can't control their children for 5-10 minutes in a shop and let them run wild, but we'll be the first to complain that they don't want their kids to go back to school because it's an unsafe environment. So yeah, these two things have really been pissing me off at the moment. I know people are probably going to have difference of opinions on the whole back to school thing. If you are a parent and you've got a legitimate concern and you are legitimately worried about sending your kids back, I'm not belittling how you feel about that. I'm not mocking that. I'm mocking the people that don't really have a concern. It's just an easier life to sit at home on your arse and get paid for doing nothing through furlough, and then make an excuse up that your kids aren't safe to go back to school. But in the next breath, let's all go to Alton Towers for the day. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Anyway, it's been good to kind of jump on here and kind of sound off a bit. I'm going to try and jump on a little bit more often. Things have kind of calmed down on social media now. No one seems to want to hate everyone, and no one wants to kind of excuse me, condemn everything everyone does. Everyone's being a bit more how social media should be. Anyway, I'm going to go because I need a drink of water. I think all this talking, because I haven't done it for quite a while, give me a bit of a sore throat. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you're watching it on YouTube, feel free to make comments on YouTube. Feel free to make comments on my Facebook page. Again, come forward with any ideas of anything you want me to talk about. So I do want to kind of jump on this a bit more often now, as now things are kind of getting back to normal and things are kind of calmed down. It's not such a hostile atmosphere on social media now. But the main thing is, hopefully this is all finding you safe and well and happy, and those around you are safe and well and happy. And I'll give you the heads up the next time I'm going to jump on, or if someone gives me an idea for something to jump on about, I'll pop up on the Facebook page and give you the heads up that I'm going to be uploading something to YouTube. In the meantime though, stay safe, stay healthy, stay sensible. Peace out, my lovelies.